Well, good morning, church. Here is a question. Have you ever found yourself saying kind words, but then missing the opportunity to live out those words through your actions? Well, I experience this often, so here's a true confession. Starting first thing in the morning, most mornings, I sit with my dog on my lap while I catch up with news on my smartphone. Dog, smartphone. And I absent-mindedly scratch my little dog's ears and look at my news story and tell my dog, oh, how much I love you. You are so sweet. And within no time, my little dog is pawing my phone. And she's telling me to put that phone down. And once I do that, I have to use two hands for the ear scratch, and I have to look her in the eye and say, you are such a sweet dog, and I love you. And only then is she satisfied. Well, that got me thinking about how our words and our actions either are aligned or not. So I've been watching this show on Netflix called Kim's Convenience. And it's a comedy of errors about a Korean family. They own a convenience store in Toronto, and it's full of moments where their words completely miss. They do not align with their actions, and therein, of course, lies the comedy and quite a bit of drama. But it's especially true with Mr. Kim, the father of the family. He's blunt, he is quick to speak, and he always sounds rough. But beneath it all, he is learning. He is learning how to let his actions align with his words because he really does care for others. And what I love most about this show is the way it opens. Each episode begins like this. Mr. Kim goes to the door of his store, and he flips the sign from closed to open. It's a small detail, I know, but it makes me think about our lives and how we flip our sign from closed to open. So the question is, are we open or are we closed? Are our hearts open to the needs of others? Or are we stuck behind a closed door, either by distraction or intentional inaction? Which brings us, of course, to today's reading from James. James does not mince words. Much like Mr. Kim, James tells it straight up. And he says this, faith without works, it's dead. Faith without works is dead. It's one thing to say you have faith. It's something else entirely to show how you live your faith. If you flip your sign to open and yet do not welcome people in, what good is that? James talks about real, tangible ways to live out our faith through action. And he gives us a very good example. And it's not an easy one. It's one that causes us a lot of contradiction and a lot of questions. He warns us and tells us of our need to care for others and to not play favorites. He says, do not cater to those who have, at the expense of the vulnerable who have not. Because in God's eyes, we are all loved, and we are all the same. We are all in need of God's grace and God's mercy. So why would we ever close ourselves off to a neighbor based on what they have or what they don't have? Which got me thinking, what does my sign say? What does it say today? Do I keep it flipped to open? Or are there times when it's closed to some people, not to all, and I don't even realize it? Jesus teaches us that we are to love our neighbors. We are to love them as ourselves, not just in our words, but in our actions. It's easy to talk about love, but it is a lot harder to live it out, especially when we come across people who we feel are different, who we feel are difficult, or just inconvenient. Back to Kim's convenience. That family is always navigating through times where there are disagreements. It's funny, it's awkward, but there are deep, meaningful moments where they learn to care and understand others. They mess up, they argue, but they keep trying. And that's what James is asking of us. Keep trying to align your faith and your actions. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what does that actually look like? Well, here's an example here at Christ Church Cathedral. Every week in our bulletin, you read about the Emergency Assistance Fund. It's a fund that helps people with basic needs like paying their rent or their utility bills. And those gifts come from all of us. And they are distributed by two wonderful people, Muffy Stewart and Mary MacLyle. So I am grateful for your gifts, and I am grateful for the way that these two women help us serve others. And this is really important because the other day we received a beautiful note, a thank you note that said, "Dear Christ Church Cathedral." It was from a couple named Bill and Helen. And they wrote, "Thank you so much for your generosity, because your gift helped to keep us from being evicted. We are grateful for you, and we ask God's blessing of love upon you." So, when we put our words and our actions together, things happen. Transformation happens. People's lives are changed, just like Bill and Helen. And we become the hands and feet of Christ, reaching out to a world that is often closed. We get to flip the sign to open. And what a gift that is. So what is your sign saying today? Are you open to other people? To the other people that God places in your path? Are your words and actions aligned? Because James gives us a chart, a compass, and a measure. And that measure of faith is this: that faith without works is not the way we are called to live. So let's take a moment to reflect. What is one way this week that you can show someone that you are open, truly open, to loving them through your words and through your actions? Amen.